You are sitting in your car. It is 5:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. The engine is running. To your left, a sea of red brake lights. To your right, 4 lanes of completely paralyzed metal. You are surrounded by 2 tons of steel, glass, and modern engineering perfection. Yet, your current top speed is literally slower than a horse. You are trapped on an American highway. And the worst part? We did this to ourselves. Why are we always stuck? Why is this our daily reality in the richest country on Earth? For almost a century, civil engineers thought they had the perfect mathematical solution to traffic. The logic was beautifully simple. If a water pipe is clogged, you build a wider pipe. If a road is congested, you build a wider road. You add just 1 more lane. It makes perfect sense, until you look at Houston, Texas, and the Katy Freeway. They took this engineering logic to its absolute extreme limit. 26 lanes of solid concrete. It is the widest highway in human history. A multi-billion-dollar monument to the automobile. They poured $2.8 billion into this massive expansion project. Millions of tons of asphalt. Years of heavy construction. All to finally eliminate traffic. So, what happened when they cut the ribbon and opened all 26 lanes to the public? Did the congestion disappear? Did the daily commute times finally drop? No. Commute times actually increased by an astonishing 30%. The traffic got worse, much worse. But how is that mechanically possible? How do you add space for thousands of cars and end up with significantly less space? Welcome to a concept called Induced Demand. It is the darkest secret in modern urban planning. When you expand a road, you don't just clear up congestion, you actively invite new drivers. People who used to take the train now drive. People who avoided rush hour now drive. Real estate developers build new distant suburbs because the highway is suddenly considered faster. Within just a few short years, those 26 massive lanes are completely paralyzed all over again. Trying to cure traffic by adding lanes is like trying to cure obesity by loosening your belt. It is a fundamental failure in engineering, a mathematical impossibility. Yet, we keep doing it. But this American addiction to concrete and highways did not happen by accident. It was designed. Let's rewind. In the 1920s, American urban centers were built entirely for people. Streetcars, electric trains, and pedestrians completely ruled the vibrant, dense, and walkable city streets. Then, massive corporations like General Motors looked at the map and saw a threat to their future. In the 1930s, a massive front company called National City Lines was formed. Secretly funded by General Motors, Firestone, and Standard Oil, they had one single mission: buy up every electric streetcar system in American cities and completely destroy them. They ripped out the tracks, burned the train cars, and replaced them with General Motors buses. By 1950, the American public transit system was deliberately crippled. Then, the fatal blow came from the highest level of government, President Eisenhower. During World War II, Eisenhower saw the German Autobahn and wanted the exact same thing for America. In 1956, he signed the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act. The federal government offered to pay for 90% of highway construction. For state politicians, it was practically free money. And they went absolutely crazy. But the engineers made a fatal mistake. They didn't just build highways between the cities. They decided to ram these massive concrete structures directly through the downtowns. To do this, they needed to bulldoze entire urban neighborhoods, hundreds of thousands of homes. And they didn't pick these neighborhoods at random. They targeted the poorest communities. Through a racist banking practice called redlining, minority neighborhoods were deemed blighted. This made the land incredibly cheap for the government to forcefully buy and destroy. Over 1 million Americans were displaced. Their communities turned into concrete overpasses. Cities like Detroit, Miami, and Atlanta had their vibrant downtowns completely hollowed out. But the destruction didn't stop there. Once the cars arrived downtown, they needed a place to stop. So, city planners introduced parking minimums, a law that changed American cities forever. For every new building, they were legally required to bulldoze the surrounding area for parking. By the 1980s, some American downtowns were literally 60% parking lots. They tore down beautiful architecture, just to store empty metal boxes for 9 hours a day. This infrastructure design created an environment where it is physically impossible to walk. You are forced to buy a $30,000 machine just to participate in society. But the absolute worst part about this massive, sprawling system? It is financially bankrupt. Remember, the federal government only paid to build the highways in 1956. They explicitly left the multi-billion-dollar maintenance costs entirely to the local towns and cities. A suburban road does not generate enough tax revenue to pay for its own repaving. It is a literal Ponzi scheme. American towns are drowning in infrastructure debt. But if you look across the ocean, you realize this is not a normal way to live. In the Netherlands, they realized the exact same mathematical traffic error in the 1970s. Instead of building more lanes to solve congestion, they did the unthinkable. They built fewer. They redesigned their cities entirely around human beings, bicycles, and efficient public transit. Today, the average Dutch citizen is wealthier, healthier, and spends 0 hours stuck in gridlock. Meanwhile, the American suburb is designed to legally mandate psychological isolation. In most of the United States, it is literally illegal to build a grocery store inside a residential neighborhood. This is called strict Euclidean zoning, and it completely forces you to drive everywhere. Want to buy a gallon of milk? Get in the 2-ton machine and enter the Stroad. Children cannot walk to school. Teenagers cannot meet their friends without a chauffeur. The alternative is a brilliant concept called the 15-minute city, a place where your job, food, school, and doctor are all within a 15-minute walk. It is not a radical, new, futuristic idea. It is exactly how human beings lived for 6,000 years. It is exactly how American cities were designed before the auto industry bought the roads. But what about long distances? The United States is massive. We need cars for that, right? Enter high-speed rail, the technology that the rest of the developed world has already mastered. China has built over 26,000 miles of high-speed rail in just 15 years. Spain, France, and Japan move millions of citizens between major cities at 200 miles per hour. And the United States? It has 0 miles of true high-speed rail. Not one single mile. The rail network in America is privately owned by massive freight corporations. Cargo trains are legally given priority. Passenger trains are forced to pull over and wait. So, an Amtrak journey from Chicago to New York takes 20 hours. You could literally fly to Japan in less time. We are pouring trillions of dollars into a concrete sinkhole that just makes us miserable. The solution isn't flying cars or hyperloops. The solution is boring, proven, century-old geometry. It's about building places where a car is an option, not a mandatory prosthetic device. The American traffic paradox is not a law of physics. It's a choice we make every time we pour new concrete. We can choose to keep widening the Katy Freeway until it swallows Houston entirely. Or we can finally admit that 100 years of car-centric engineering was a colossal mistake. The next time you are sitting in rush hour, staring at a sea of red brake lights, remember, you aren't stuck in traffic. You are the traffic. But if driving is so miserable, why do we keep buying more and more cars? For a century, billions of dollars in advertising have sold us the ultimate American illusion: freedom. They sell you the open road, the rugged individualism, the wind in your hair. But the reality you actually purchase is something civil engineers call the Stroad. A Stroad is an unholy hybrid between a street and a road. It fails completely at being either. A road is meant for high-speed travel between two places. No businesses, no pedestrians. A street is meant to be a complex, wealthy ecosystem of humans, homes, and shops. But a Stroad combines high-speed multi-lane traffic with dozens of parking lot entrances. Cars are constantly turning, braking, and accelerating. It is an engineering nightmare, and it makes the American Stroad the deadliest road design in the entire developed world. Since 2010, pedestrian deaths in the United States have skyrocketed by 77%. But the Stroad isn't the only killer. It's the literal size of the machines we are driving. Automakers realized that light trucks and SUVs face significantly weaker environmental regulations. So they completely stopped making small sedans and aggressively pushed massive trucks on the public. Today, the front hood of an American pickup truck is literally higher than a World War II tank. The blind spots on these vehicles are so enormous you could hide a dozen children in front of them. If you get hit by a sedan, it breaks your legs. You roll over the hood and you survive. If you get hit by a modern SUV, a flat wall of steel crushes your internal organs immediately. But the physical danger is only half the story. The other half is the invisible financial prison.
In the United States, owning a car is no longer a luxury. It is a mandatory tax on existing. The average American spends over $12,000 every single year just to maintain their vehicle. Car payments, extreme insurance premiums, gas, repairs, and massive depreciation. It is the single largest wealth-destroying asset the middle class has ever been forced to buy. We traded our vibrant communities for the false promise of a fast commute. Every dollar spent on gas and insurance is a dollar sucked straight out of the local economy, and it goes directly into the pockets of the massive oil and automotive monopolies. But here is the most frustrating part of all. This system is entirely subsidized by people who don't drive. The property taxes of city dwellers are constantly used to bail out the failing suburban infrastructure. We have literally engineered a system that punishes efficiency and rewards massive waste. We are trapped in a 2-ton metal box, paying thousands of dollars for the privilege. This brings us back to the ultimate engineering trap. The highway paradox. You cannot pave your way out of congestion. It is mathematically impossible. The illusion of just one more lane will fix it is a comforting lie. Induced demand dictates that every new lane will fill with pent-up traffic almost immediately. The only scientifically proven way to reduce highway traffic is totally counterintuitive. You have to build reliable, high-speed alternatives to driving. When you build a train, it pulls people off the highway, completely bypassing the Stroads. And here's the irony. The best thing for car drivers is public transit, because if everyone who doesn't want to drive takes the train, the road clears up for you. Luckily, a quiet revolution is starting to happen across American cities. Cities are finally abolishing mandatory parking minimums, allowing developers to build homes instead of asphalt. We are starting to convert those deadly Stroads back into human-centered streets. Engineering is supposed to serve humanity. It is supposed to connect us, not isolate us. We traded our vibrant communities for the false promise of a fast commute. We handed our cities over to machines, and we have spent a century paying the ultimate price. So the next time your local politicians proudly announce a $2 billion highway expansion, remember the Katy Freeway. Remember that pouring more concrete is never the solution. They are not fixing your traffic. They are just inducing more demand. The traffic paradox proves that we don't need just one more lane. We need a fundamentally different way to build the human world. What do you think? Have you ever noticed this paradox in your own city? Do you think high-speed rail could actually work in the United States? Let me know your experiences with traffic down in the comments below.